Hello everyone and welcome to this new season of Fountaine Pajot's Nautic Broadcast. Nautic Broadcast is a program where we talk about shipyard news, innovations, sailing, but above all, sharing experiences. Today we will discuss several topics. First of all, the first hulls of the new Fountaine Pajot range. Then we will move on to the new models. Caroline, you will also tell us about customer feedback, sea trials, and above all, why this new range. We will bring in one of our marketing manager who will be able to explain his motivations in more detail, and we will finish with customization and upcoming Fountaine Pajot events. But let's first refocus on the main topic of this broadcast. Caroline, can you tell us a little more so we can start this episode?
Absolutely, Mile. The new Fountaine Pajot range, I think in any case, for us, it's a major event. As you may have already noticed, in all our communications on our websites and social media, we have launched 9 new models in 2 years. That's huge. For our design offices and our architect, this is a real achievement, and we would like to commend them. We hope you like all these new models. In any case, we got a little preview during the first boat shows in September and October. But here we are, 9 new models. So we have the 41, the 44, the 48, the 55, the 70 sailboat and her motor version, the Power 80, the 110 sailboat and her motor version. So 9 models, so lots of new features, Maël.
That's a lot of boats, a lot of units. I have heard from a reliable source that we are going to redefine this organization a little bit. Before we had the core range, which was the core of the product line and the flagships. What is the situation today? What about this new brand we are creating, which will be called Fountaine Pajot Yachts?
Exactly, Maël. So with new models, there needs to be a reorganization to ensure consistency across the range. There will therefore be a new brand, Fountaine Pajot Yachts, which will include the 59, 70, 80 and 110 models. We'll tell you a little more later, sometime in 2026. Our teams dedicated to this new brand are still working on the subject. Today, I'd like us to focus more on the core range, which means boats from 41 to 55 bearing the Sailing Catamaran brand, and more specifically the 41 and 44, since they were exhibited for the first time at the Cannes and Genoa boat shows. Could you tell us a little more about them, Maël?
And yes, it's true that Fountaine Pajot's goal was to showcase these boats, so to showcase the FP44 number 1 and the FP41 number 1. That's what we did, as you said, at the boat shows in Cannes, Genoa, Monaco, Barcelona, Cannes, Marseille and La Rochelle at the Grand Pavois. It's a festival of boat shows. And today, these first 2 hulls, including the 41 number 1, still sail the French Mediterranean Sea and can be seen in certain ports. And the 44 number 1 headed for South America to Brazil and its sunshine. Here are the first hulls. Caroline, can you tell us a little more for the others?
Yes, on the next ones. So the first hulls of the 41 and 44, like most of our boats delivered between September and December, are boats that will be going to owners or charter companies, mainly in the Caribbean, the US and Australia. And starting in January, we begin to see boats departing from the Mediterranean Sea. What about 48 and 55, Maël?
48 and 55, so the 2 big sisters of the other units. Well, they will be launched in June 2026 so that they can be presented to the general public during the 2026 Open Days, which will take place on July 2nd, 3rd and 4th in La Rochelle downtown. This event is always rich in encounters but also in activities, as we have visits to the boats and the shipyard. It is also a chance of doing sea trials, always accompanied by your dealer. but also to meet people from the shipyard and then be guided through the process of setting up a project, whether it's buying a project, renting a boat, or how to finance it. It's a very friendly occasion where we have time to chat and discuss our product range. So the 48 and 55 were launched and presented during the open days. But we mustn't forget the FP41, which is the precursor to this range, with many features that we will discuss later, which will also be on display during the 2026 open days. So here's a key date to remember, July 2nd, 3rd and 4th, when we'll be able to see the 48, the 55, but also the 41, the 44 and the 51.
We could also mention the initial feedback from customers who saw the 41 and 44 for the first time at the Cannes and Genoa boat shows. So for me, Mel, the first impressions were the volume on the 41 and more particularly on the cockpit. Customers were very impressed by the space available and also on the 44. They had the same feeling of spaciousness in the cockpit, where in the end they told me that although the 44 is 43.5 feet long, they felt like they were on a 45 or 46 footer.
I think those are the key words for this new range: space, comfort, light and flow.
Exactly, they really got it right. That's a very good point. Perhaps the space in the cockpit, that feeling of space, has been accentuated by the opening of the bay window.
Exactly.
Which is about 3 meters wide on a 41-foot boat.
It's huge.
Never seen before on a boat of this size. So really, I think we've succeeded. We wanted our customers to feel that we had pushed and moved the walls to their limits. I think that feeling is there and we've succeeded. What other feedback did we get, Mel, on the 41 and 44?
Well, this new range also features the layout of the beds, whether in the starboard aft cabin or in the port aft cabin where the owner's bed is located. Today, beds are positioned at an angle in the cabin rather than in a straight line, offering two major advantages. Firstly, the perception of space, once again making the cabin appear larger, providing more volume and therefore greater comfort. And secondly, the opportunity to admire the ocean while lying in bed.
Very important.
A great success.
It's not just on super yachts.
Exactly.
You can also enjoy this level of comfort and luxury on the 41.
Exactly. Do you have any other feedback to share with us?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the central island.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier. The FP41 is really the forerunner of this new range. It also inspired us to include this central island, which you now find on the 41, the 44, the 48 and the 55. It's a real feat to have managed to install this central island to provide more storage space in a galley, which is very important. And on a 41-footer, it wasn't easy, not obvious at first. But in fact, it worked out very well.
And it was requested by our customers.
That's right, requested by our customers. And so we end up with more storage space in the galley, the possibility of having an extra refrigerator or a food saver, a freezer, that's it. And with this wonderful bay window opening overlooking the island, it creates a single space between the cockpit and the galley. It's great for friendliness. The customers really loved it.
So we talked about brightness with this large bay window, but also with the portholes found in the cabins. We talked about space and comfort with the beds and this central island and circulation. I would also like to mention the famous pass-through windows on the front windshield of the boat, which provides a connection between the front cockpit and the galley that is itself connected to the cockpit, which is itself connected to the helm station. We now have a range that provides good connectivity on the boat.
The pass-through is indeed very important for the communication you were talking about, but on the 55 we're going to have a door.
Yes, that's right, that's new. It's going to be a proper door. So why haven't we done this on the smaller models? Well, today, Fountaine Pajot is trying it out, and I think they've succeeded in striking the right balance between comfort and performance. Putting a door on a 41 or a 44 would require a higher ceiling, a heavier boat. And today we want to keep these boats that are a little faster and are the hallmark and DNA of Fountaine Pajot. On the 55, you enter another world, a larger, more spacious boat. And so this door fit almost naturally into the design of this new boat. This balance between performance and comfort is actually Fountaine Pajot's guiding principle. And I think you're going to tell us a little more about that now. Caroline.
So yes, ergonomics have also been improved in this new range, and that's something that had also been mentioned by our owners in the previous range. The control panel at the helm has been raised, which provides even more comfort and practicality at the helm. So there was that, and then there's a detail, but in fact it's not really a detail, it's the circuit breaker, the location of the circuit breaker.
Yes, exactly. The circuit breaker, we've all seen boats with circuit breakers in the engine compartment. But today the circuit breaker is located on the 12-volt panel in the starboard companionway of the FP41 and the new range. So that allows us to be more responsive and to have direct access to this circuit breaker. I would still like to point out, Caroline, that all these small improvements we have implemented are the result of feedback from our customers in the field, dialogue with our dealers, and discussions we have during boat shows or open days. These are special moments for us, but they are very important because they allow us to build these boats and this new range that we are creating on our side, but which we are creating with you, with our customers, and with our dealers. We are moving forward together.
Also, following our satisfaction surveys that we send you regularly and which are very valuable to us, we talked about boats, about visiting boats. We didn't talk about sea trials, but we also had the opportunity to do some trials with customers. So for my part, it was just this morning when I had our dealer in Australia who was coming out of the Sydney Boat Show. He did a few sea trials with the 41 and some clients. And the clients were really delighted with their trials. You have to know that in Sydney there's quite a bit of wind. It's a very good spot known for sailing. So we went there to try out the boat. And in fact it performed very well. So we're fully in line with the DNA of Fountaine Pajot Maël.
Yes, exactly. I also had the chance to sail on this boat, but also to live on it for a week. So the boat is popular in the southern hemisphere in Australia, but it's also popular in the northern hemisphere on the Spanish Mediterranean. We spent a week with journalists from all over Europe. There were several brands and several competitors. We made 2, 3, even 4 trips a day with the boat under different conditions, different wind conditions. We were able to use all the sails, whether it was a Gennaker, a Genoa, or the mainsail. It's a boat that's already very easy to maneuver, so that's great. We also feel safe on this boat, and it responds very well. For me, it was FP41 #1, equipped with the Odyssey Plus solution, so our own hybrid solution. A solution that has really proven itself, especially during port maneuvers. The boat is very easy to maneuver, with one hand on the engine handles, which is very pleasant, and a boat that is always very easy to maneuver and a great place to live, where it's easy to have a good time with the crew or with your family. So that's a really big plus point for this FP41. It's important to note that at Fountaine Pajot, we're talking about performance. We have also increased the boat's volume, but always above the waterline. We have also kept the standard square-top mainsail, which still allows for a powerful boat with a mainsail that responds well. And then there are lots of little improvements that we talked about earlier. But above all, there's the helm station with all the information centralized. Autopilot, chain counter, GPS plotter, all in one place, easily accessible, and what's more, it has a great design. After this week in Pajot Ginesta in Catalonia, where sea trials with journalists were more than conclusive, the FP41 challenge has been met. I'd like us to focus more specifically on the reasons behind this new complete range. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Yes, Maël, I would also like to come back to the previous range because it was very important in the development of the Fountaine Pajot shipyard. It was a truly pioneering range that launched the shipyard into a new era with models that really stood out.
Which are iconic.
And they were very successful because for the Isla 40 we produced almost 500 models, more than 300 Astrea 42, more than 300 Elba 45, and more than 300 Tana 47.
That's really huge.
It's huge, it's a success, and it has inspired us for the new range. And renewing a complete range, well, yes, at some point you have to look to the future while building on the successes of previous ranges and feedback from our customers. You have to use new technologies and the new habits of our owners today and tomorrow. But I think we'll hand over to Romain Moteau, our deputy CEO, who was behind this new range. And why a whole new range? Why this model size? Romain will answer all these questions.
Very well.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Maël. So why this new range of boats? That's a good question. You remember in the various presentations we gave to explain why we needed and wanted to develop this new range of boats, the first thing we can say is essentially to give more for a better price, and therefore to provide more comfort, more added value, more features and more differentiation on these boats, serving the cruise and the use that you, the owner, will make of it tomorrow inside it. So we decided to redistribute it across this range, starting with 41, 44 and 48 feet. These are the three new boats in this core range today, because ultimately each time it was a different stage and a different arrangement. So each boat has a different layout and slightly different features compared to the intermediate size. In the end, we end up with one less boat in this generational transfer. We have one less boat. But these three new boats will still have all the equipment and amenities, if I may say so, that were found in the previous range. It's a new concept with new boats that have a longer deck at the front, more living space, larger interior cabins, and where we've tried to optimize and add even more details than we had on the previous range, taking into account all the feedback we've had over the last 5 years and the I don't know how many weeks of cruising the owners have been able to do on board these boats. And that's why today we're launching this new range of boats, which is really competitively priced and offers more than we've been able to do up until now.
Thank you very much, Romain, for all these interesting and valuable insights. Now I'd like us to talk a little more about the options that are available on a boat. So when I want to configure my boat with my dealer, what kind of options can I have depending on my sailing program?
And yes, that's also the strength of Fountaine Pajot today, since we have a good number of options available on our price lists today. And so these are options that can affect both the electronics, what equipment do I want to have depending on my program, to the comfort of the boat, how do I equip my boat, how am I going to entertain on board, for the upholstery.
Different appliances too.
Also, and there can also be options that affect the aesthetics. So all of this is a range of options that we offer and that we update every year and include in our price lists. Now we also offer the possibility of customizing Fountaine Pajot units, and contrary to what many people may think, this is available starting with the FP41. It's available starting with the first boat in our range.
It's not just reserved for very large boats.
And no, today Fountaine Pajot Services is working on our entire range.
Fountaine Pajot Services, which is a department of the shipyard.
And when an option is carried out by FPS, it includes a construction warranty. What I suggest is that we let Antoine introduce us to his department. Antoine is the FPS manager for the sailing core range.
From 41 to 55 feet.
Exactly. So let's give him the floor and let him introduce us to his department.
Thank you, Maël. Thank you, Caroline. So let me introduce myself. My name is Antoine Bonifay, and I've been working at Fountaine Pajot Service for 4 years. Fountaine Pajot Service is here to support customers in their purchasing process, in the customization of their boat, to provide them with the boat of their dreams, the boat they want. We have available to customers an FPS catalog, which is there to show what we have achieved in the past, perhaps to give them some ideas about the options available, particularly if we take the examples recently made on Aura boats, where we have added extra refrigerators for electric Aura boats, induction hobs and extra ovens. We also have FlexiTech options in the saloon, with additional storage space in full Maestro boats, or even custom furniture in a saloon. We can also supply special spinnakers or gennikers for the most avid sailors. So how does FPS work? FPS is an entity that will work and begin the work in post-production at Les Minimes Marina in La Rochelle once the boat has been received by the dealer. Our means of communication is the dealer, so your requests must go through them and they will make sure you get the boat of your dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Antoine. To conclude, Maël, so whatever my sailing program, whether I'm alone on my boat with my family, whether I'm in the Mediterranean or sailing around the world, I can even put my boat into charter operation for part of the year. We have a model with the right size to suit. Customized and customizable options. You can discover these new models at our open days next year on July 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 2026.
Yes, a major event in the calendar, both for this new range and for Fountaine Pajot in general. During these open days, you'll find the sailing range, the 41, the 44, as well as the new models, the 48, the 55 and the FP41. In addition, we will see the Samana 59 and the FP70.
Number one, so the entire range.
Yes, exactly. Why is this a major event in the Fountaine Pajot calendar? Well, because 2026 will mark the 50th anniversary of the Fountaine Pajot shipyard. It will therefore be our 50th anniversary, which is why we have lots of surprises in store for you. We'll see you very soon, so stay tuned.
See you soon.